How powerful has Loki, the once god of mischief, just become? Loki's arc throughout the course of the MCU has all been leading to this triumphant moment for the god of mischief. His rivalry with Thor and mistreatment by Odin, the invasion of New York, and attempted siege of Earth have all been guiding him on this path to the end of time. But how powerful now has Loki truly become? Well, today, my friends, we'll be answering that question and analyzing the power of Loki at the finale of Season 2. Throughout the course of the second season of Loki, Loki undergoes one of the most potent character arcs ever put to screen in the Marvel Universe. And now the God of Mischief has been burdened with one of the heaviest responsibilities in all of the multiverse. For the past 14 years, all Loki has ever wanted was to achieve godhood. And now he has. Along this though, and this new great power, comes the great responsibility that accompanies holding trillions of lives in the balance. At the end of Season 2, Loki learns that the multiverse cannot survive unchecked, and that the only way to preserve anything at all, and trap one singular sacred timeline, just as He Who Remains once did. Loki finally understands why He Who Remains took such drastic measures to ensure the safety of the sacred timeline, and why there simply wasn't another option. Loki, however, vows to find a different way and weaves all of the strands of the multiverse into one collective tree. After destroying the temporal loom, he quite literally takes the strands of dying timelines into his hands and breathes them into new life. He breathes into life new realities that would have been all but dead without him. This newly formed Yggdrasil-esque world tree ties the multiverse into a network of interwoven timelines, beautifully crafted into one entity, and at the center lies Loki. Many have compared this iteration of the character to the God of Stories from the comics, and while the two are similar, they don't overlap entirely. This might, however, be the MCU's adaptation of the God of Stories with a few changes. The God of Stories started with just another Loki, but he managed to erase himself from the Book of Hell just before his death, allowing him to be reborn without the weight of his past or the constraints of time. This newly reborn Kid Loki sought to reinvent himself into a much more benevolent god by speaking to an echo of the future. Eventually, this led him into contact with the two cosmic entities known as Now and Then. These entities who could detect his desire to do better than his past selves. The two entities then brought him to their false house of ideas, which was a collection of the greatest stories of the strongest heroes across the multiverse. It was quite literally an archive of all existence, and the exploits of these heroes could be changed by simply rewriting their stories. Loki struck a deal to claim a few more pages for himself, where he could write out the rest of his adventure in a way that he saw fit. What this meant though, is that he had access to everyone's stories as well as their endings. He could erase and replace portions of a person or an entire timeline's life, as well as simply burn pages that he wanted to purge out of existence. When he left, however, he was stripped of all memories from the House of Ideas, and he was unaware of any changes that he made to his own story. This seems to be directly referenced several times throughout Loki Season 2, when he talks about rewriting the ending and changing his story. While he doesn't go through a literal rebirth like his comic counterpart did, he did vow to become a much more benevolent and merciful god who valued the sanctity of all life and not just the reach of his power. In order to gain the power of ultimate godhood, he first had to become someone worthy of attaining said godhood in the first place, and this meant seeing the end of everything. So then the major question at the center of this all becomes, just how powerful is this new Loki? Before he takes on the role of the God of Stories, he learns to control his time slipping across not just time, but space as well. And we know that Loki has become something of a living tempad. He can go anywhere in any universe at any point, thus giving him a wider range of travel than America Chavez, or even Kang himself, who still relies on technology to get him to certain points in the multiverse. This is all in addition to the power he already possessed in the realm of sorcery, magic, and combat, but these past skills all seem to now be irrelevant to his newfound power. Right now, we don't know if he can directly affect individual events on each timeline, but we know that he does have the power to break and kill any reality that he chooses to on a whim. If he ever wanted to, Loki could simply starve it out of existence, and even though he seems to have vowed to preserve all life, he could theoretically do it if he wanted to. Even Kangs are now microscopic to this Loki, as if they try to leap between the strands that he holds within his grasp. He just might be the single most powerful entity in the known MCU. One possible theory alludes to the idea that at the center of this Yggdrasil might become the MCU's iteration of the House of Ideas, and that Loki, god of stories, might preside over this domain rather than the entities of then and now. If this realm is reinvented into the MCU House of Ideas, then this would mean that Loki has the story of everyone across the multiverse in his hands, ultimately attaining true godhood as one of the most powerful Marvel characters. If he ever decides to leave the House of Ideas, however, then he still has an immense amount of power to hold over any timeline that he travels to. He now has complete mastery over time, including the ability to not just travel across it, but to freeze it as well. If he ever decides to visit one of the timelines he is protecting, he could intervene in any event with ease in order to correct the flow of time. He could, in essence, work as a sort of stand-in for the living tribunal, whose job was to settle cosmic disputes across the multiverse. Loki could simply arrive on a timeline, freeze everything that is going on, and correct it as he saw fit, unable to be touched even by the most powerful entities of any given universe. Right now, the threat doesn't seem to be just how powerful Loki has become, but how anyone can be written as a formidable threat to his rule. Even the army of kings is being policed by the TVA, and it appears as if Loki has become more powerful than He Who Remains was. Whatever comes of Loki in the future, it is apparent that his decision will have ramifications across all of reality. His choices are perhaps the most important of anyone in the cosmos, as nobody holds these many lives within their literal grasp. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of the god of stories Loki, and this brand new iteration of the character of Loki that we've been presented at the end of season 2? What do you think the future of the MCU holds with this now Loki that has attained true godhood? Are the kings still a threat to him, or is Loki the key to the whole multiversal war? How do you think this will impact the future of the multiversal saga going forward? And how do you think Loki could possibly be challenged? Thank you as always, my friends, for visiting the channel today and taking the time. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.